I always thought if betrayal ever came into my life, I'd recognize it. That it would kick the door down and announce itself, wearing someone else's perfume or holding a stranger's hand. But the real ones? They move slower. Quieter. Like smoke curling through cracks in the walls, you don't know what's burning until the air tastes wrong. Her name was Eliza. She was never the kind of person you could easily define. She'd slip through categories like water. Kind, but private. Confident, but careful. You could talk to her for hours and still leave feeling like she gave you nothing. And somehow, I fell in love with her for that. We lived together for nearly 5 years. No drama. No shouting matches or slammed doors. Just two people who had enough shared silence to call it comfort. And I liked it that way. I liked knowing what to expect, even if what I expected was emptiness with a warm voice. It wasn't until the 3rd week of October that I noticed it. The change. It started with her phone. Always close. Face down. The kind of subtle new habit you don't register until you realize it's become routine. Then there were the late nights, work dinners, she said. New projects. New names I didn't recognize. But I wasn't the jealous type. I didn't ask questions. I just started watching. And that's when I began to notice the other things, little things. A second glass of wine poured, but untouched. A jacket hanging in the hallway I didn't remember buying. Her smile lingering a beat too long when I asked about her day. She was slipping. But not away from me, not at first. She was slipping inward. Like someone building a secret house inside herself, brick by brick, and never once inviting me inside. I convinced myself it was stress. That I was imagining it. That this was what 5 years looked like, quiet distance, not betrayal. But then came the night I heard laughter through the bathroom door. Hers. And a voice I didn't recognize. Muffled. Deep. Gone by the time I opened it. She said it was a podcast. I nodded. But something hollow opened up in me that never closed. So I started keeping notes. Not out of paranoia, at least, that's what I told myself. I just wanted to track what didn't make sense. Time. Movement. Patterns. And in between those facts, I'd write thoughts. Feelings. Questions I couldn't say out loud. And one of them I wrote in bold, underlined 3 times. If she's lying, do I even want to know? I kept waiting for proof. Not drama. Not confrontation. Just something clear. Something I could point to and say. Here. This is the moment she stopped being mine. But no such moment came. Eliza became more careful. That's what tipped me off the most, not what changed, but what stopped changing. She stopped doing anything new. No spontaneous dinners. No last-minute weekend plans. Not even small talk about her coworkers. It was too neat. Like a script written by someone who had something to lose. I started watching the windows at night. Not because I thought she'd sneak out. Just because they faced the street. And sometimes, when the headlights passed, I'd wonder who might be out there watching us from the other side. Wondering if we were as normal as we looked. We weren't. One night, I noticed a car idling across the street. A few times a week. Never too long. Never obvious. Just long enough to feel like a presence. Eliza never mentioned it. She stopped asking about my day too. Not out of rudeness, it was more like she already knew. Like someone had filled her in. I became obsessed with the idea of someone else. Not a name. Not a face. Just a shape. A figure in the background of our life, slowly getting closer. I never found texts. Never saw a photo. But sometimes, when she showered, I'd open her laptop. Nothing out of place. Clean. Empty. Too empty. She had become a blank wall. And I had become the person staring at it, hoping to see something move. One evening, I came home early. The lights were off, but the kitchen smelled like fresh espresso. There was a coffee cup in the sink, still warm. 2 lipstick smudges on the rim. She only wore that shade when she went out. She came home 10 minutes later, carrying groceries. Acted normal. Said she was thinking about making pasta. I said I wasn't hungry. And I wasn't. Because the silence between us had finally changed shape. It wasn't calm anymore. It was loaded. Weighted. I started locking the door at night, not because I thought she'd leave, but because part of me hoped I'd hear if she tried. That's where I was. Living beside someone who still said, "I love you," and wondering if those words were now just camouflage. But still, no proof. Only suspicion. And that's what made it worse. Because you can grieve a fact. But you can't bury doubt. The mind can survive on suspicion alone. You start with a thread. Then you pull. And even if nothing unravels, the pulling becomes habit. A comfort, even. Proof you're not asleep at the wheel of your own life. That's how it was with Eliza. I watched everything. The time she left. The time she came back. Her voice when she was tired. Her voice when she wasn't. And always, that car. The same one. Parked down the street. Windows tinted. Music low enough to be imagined. Never for long. Never every day. Just enough to keep me thinking. I wrote it all down. Dates. License plate. Time of arrival. Time of departure. And one day, it wasn't just parked. I saw someone get out. Dark jacket. Ball cap. Average build. Completely unremarkable, which made it worse. He walked around the block like he belonged there. Didn't look at the house. Didn't rush. Just walked. Like a man rehearsing how not to be noticed. I never saw him go in. Never saw her meet him. But that night, she came home humming. And that's when I decided to follow. Not every time. Just once. To know. She left the next evening around 6. Said she had to meet a client. Dressed simple. Nothing loud. Casual enough to not raise suspicion, unless you were looking closely. And I was. I waited 5 minutes. Then I followed. Not like a movie. No trench coat. No secret camera. Just me, in my car, keeping distance and praying no one saw me looking how I felt. She drove to a cafe across town. Small place. Not unusual. Not romantic. I parked far enough to stay invisible. She met someone inside. I couldn't see much. Just silhouettes. Her posture changed. She leaned forward. Smiled wider. Laughed too hard. That was all I needed. I didn't wait for them to leave. I just drove home in silence, staring at my hands on the wheel, wondering what hurt more, the possibility that she was lying, or the reality that I didn't plan to confront her either way. She didn't know I followed her. And I didn't tell her. Instead, I tested things. I asked about the cafe. She said she didn't go. I said I thought she mentioned it. She said no, must have been someone else. And that was it. The lie was small. Flat. Emotionless. Like she'd practiced. That night, I stood at the window for a long time. She was in bed already, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to notice how long I lingered by the glass. The street was quiet. But I could feel it, the absence. The space between our lives. And I kept asking myself the same question over and over. If she is cheating, what would I even do with the truth? Because by then, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like inevitability. Like something always waiting just off stage. Maybe I'd failed her first. Maybe I stopped seeing her. Maybe I let the routine swallow us both whole. I don't know. What I do know is this. The window was open that night. I never opened it. She didn't either. But it was open. Just an inch. Barely enough to notice. And I stood there for a long time, staring at it. Not moving. Not closing it. Just listening to the cold air slip through. Because maybe, just maybe, that was the only truth I'd get. I bought a cheap voice recorder online. Small. Thin. The kind that slides under furniture or behind books. I told myself it was just to ease my mind. That I wasn't turning into someone I hated. But the truth was, I needed something real. Something that would end the guessing. I placed it in the living room. Where she made her calls. Where she sat on the couch, legs tucked beneath her, phone to her ear, speaking softly into spaces she thought I couldn't hear. I let it run for days. The first time I listened, there was nothing. Silence. Muffled television. Footsteps. Breathing. The second time, the same. And then, on day 4, a voice. Not hers. Not mine. Low. Soft. Cut off after 2 words. The mic clicked. Then static. Then silence. That night, she was sweeter than usual. She made tea. She rubbed my shoulders. She asked about my day with a kind of brightness I hadn't seen in months. And I wondered. Was that kindness guilt? Or was guilt just another name I gave to things I didn't understand anymore? I didn't confront her. I just kept listening. And watching. It wasn't obsession. It was survival. Because some betrayals don't scream. They whisper. They move like air. And you have to sit perfectly still to hear them. I stopped sleeping well. Not because of the noise. But because of the silence. She never asked why I was so tired. Never asked why I stayed up late, or why I got up so early. She had her own rhythms now. Strange ones. She'd get up in the middle of the night to check something. Her laptop would glow from the hallway. The bathroom light would flicker for too long. And always, the phone. Always close. Always quiet. I started recording audio in the bedroom too. I felt sick doing it. Like something broke in me I couldn't glue back. But I needed to know. And on the 7th night, I heard it. 2 voices. Hers. And his. Not a phone call. Not a recording. In the room. I rewound it 4 times. Still unclear. Still muffled. But definitely there. Breathing. Movement. A name I didn't recognize, half-spoken. And then laughter. Hers. That same laugh I heard behind the bathroom door weeks ago. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Because I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if I was losing her. Or if I was losing myself. Because I started hearing things when the recorder wasn't even on. Started seeing shadows where no one stood. Started imagining conversations through walls that didn't exist. And still. I didn't ask. Because deep down, a small part of me whispered. Maybe this is the cost of keeping her. And the rest of me? It was already reaching for the handle of that open window. There's a shift that happens when a lie becomes shared. Not exposed. Not confessed. Just known. Quietly. By both people. Without a single word. Eliza started moving differently. Not nervous. Not guilty. Just, looser. Like she'd finally accepted the version of herself she was hiding. And maybe she knew I had, too. We still ate together. Still watched shows together. Still slept on the same mattress, backs turned, hearts silent. But there was something new beneath it all, a mutual absence. A small, flickering understanding, we are not who we were. And we are not saying it out loud. The window stayed open now. Not wide. Just enough. Like an agreement neither of us remembered making. She started humming again. Same tune. Over and over. I never asked what it was. I was afraid of the answer. Afraid it might be his. Afraid it might be mine. I still had the recorder. Still placed it in corners. Still listened to the silence like it was a map. But there was nothing new. Only the echo of what I feared I'd already missed. And then one night, she reached for me in bed. Gently. Softly. Her hand on my arm. I didn't move. Not out of anger. Just confusion. Was this love? Or was this guilt reaching out in the dark, trying to remember what it felt like to be real? I lay still. And let her touch me like a stranger she once knew. The morning after, she made breakfast. Eggs. Toast. Black coffee. Simple. Familiar. We didn't speak much. There was something fragile in the room, a silence that could shatter if either of us moved too fast. I watched her move around the kitchen like everything was fine. But nothing was. And yet, nothing happened. No confrontation. No confession. No accident of truth slipping through her lips. Just two people dancing around the thing between them. I opened the window wider. She noticed. Didn't say anything. Just sipped her coffee. And I wondered, not for the first time, if this was how it ends for some people. Not with a scream. Not with betrayal exposed like a raw nerve. But with routine. With long glances. With one person knowing, and the other knowing they know. I don't remember much about that day. Only that I kept thinking. If she is cheating, and I never stop her, does it still count? If she's not. Then what have I become? I walked the house for hours. Didn't find a message. A trace. A name. Only that same jacket in the hallway. The extra coffee cup. The open window. Always, the open window. And for the first time, I realized. Maybe it wasn't about who she let in. Maybe it was about who she knew I wouldn't chase after. There was no explosion. No moment where the world cracked open. No broken plates. No screaming. No suitcase dragged across the floor. Just, small changes. She stopped asking where I was going. I stopped asking when she'd be home. We passed each other in the hallway like neighbors in an apartment complex, polite, familiar, disengaged. I still watched the window. Still listened to the recorder, though I hadn't placed it anywhere new in weeks. I already knew I wouldn't find anything. And that terrified me more than proof ever could. Because the absence of evidence isn't peace. It's fog. It's a hallway you keep walking down, even though you forgot what you're looking for. One night, I came home and her things were moved. Not gone. Just, slightly different. Books taken off shelves. A drawer left open. Her shoes not in the rack by the door. I didn't call her. I didn't ask. I just sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall where a painting used to hang. And I realized I didn't know when she took it down. Or why. And maybe that was the answer I'd been looking for all along. It's been a few months now. The house is quieter. But not in a painful way. Just quieter. I still keep the recorder. I haven't used it. But I haven't thrown it away either. Sometimes I think I see her shadow on the sidewalk when I pull into the driveway. Just the way it used to fall across the tiles near the window. But when I get inside, it's only me. Sometimes I wonder if she left. Other times, I wonder if she was ever fully here. Because when you live beside someone long enough in silence, they become part of the furniture. A sound you stop noticing. A presence that feels like habit more than love. She never left a note. Never sent a message. Never said goodbye. And maybe that was her final answer. Or maybe she's still here. Somewhere between rooms. Somewhere in the air. Somewhere in the gaps of memory that no longer feel trustworthy. All I know is this. The window is still open. Just an inch. And I still haven't closed it. I don't know why. Maybe I'm waiting for her to return. Maybe I'm waiting for myself to leave. Or maybe, in the end, that window isn't about her at all.